Georgia and this is The Sound of Georgia. And today I'm going to be talking about some of my favourite musical songs that didn't make the cut. So obviously when you're writing, well, anything, you can put a whole bunch of stuff in that eventually gets taken out or replaced with a whole bunch of other stuff and things like that. And of course, this happens with musicals. And as such, there are plenty of musicals that had a whole bunch of songs at the beginning that were nowhere to be found when the show hit the stage. And in this video I'm going to be focusing on that. We're not talking about songs like No Way to Stop It or How Can Love Survive from Sound of Music, which were in the original show but cut when they made the film. These are all going to be songs that didn't make the final stage incarnation. I'm going to try and link videos of as many of these as I can down below. Some of these songs are just songs that were cut completely, some of them were replaced with other songs, and some of them are earlier versions of a song that did finally get into the musical. And all of the musicals on this list are pretty recent, all things considered, and that's just because these days you can access stuff so much more easily. It's a lot harder to find this stuff for older musicals. Like in My Fair Lady there was originally a song called Shy, and it was swapped out for I Could Have Danced All Night. I think it did end up being part of another musical, can't remember what it is, and I haven't listened to it, but if it hadn't been in that other show, it probably would be lost to time. And I imagine that's the case for most musicals back then. So let's get started. I could have put a lot more from Hamilton on this list, but I was able to narrow it down. That being said, the majority of this list is actually Hamilton. But I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Hamilton just had so many songs that didn't make the cut. And the other day, Lynn actually released the earliest version of Take a Break on SoundCloud. He's singing the whole thing, so it's a little weird to listen to, but it's really cool, and it will be in my head for the rest of the day. Also, happy birthday, Lynn, for tomorrow. But first I'm going to start with the songs that were completely cut. So the first couple are from Hamilton, and the first of those is Let It Go. This is my favourite cut song from Hamilton. I feel like Congratulations might be sort of the fan favourite cut song, but this is mine. This song takes place right after Schuyler defeated, which was a little different originally, but we'll get to that. And I absolutely love it. The dynamic between everyone is just brilliant. And my favourite bit would have to be when Eliza goes, "You don't have to bring a gun to a knife fight. It's not a case of your money or your life, right?" And of course Washington pipes up with, "You really ought to listen to your wife, right?" Which is just hilarious. The next song is 10 Things, One Thing. It was the precursor to World Was Wide Enough. The first half is almost exactly the same. But after that, instead of Alexander's life flashing before his eyes monologue moment, it rewinds a la Satisfied and we see the 10 things from his perspective. The next one's from Wicked, and that is Making Good, and it was the precursor to The Wizard and I. But it really is an entirely different song. It's not like 10 Things, One Thing versus World Was Wide Enough, where half of it's the same. This is a completely different song. Instead of Elphaba talking about how much her life could change if and when she meets the wizard, she's just talking about how much her life will be able to change once she's off at Shivs. Now that she's got her freedom, she's thinking about all the things she could do while and after she's at Shivs. And that when she meets the wizard, it will be because he's noticed all the amazing things she's done, not just that she has powers. Now we're going on to the earlier versions of the songs. And yes, you could consider 10 Things, One Thing an earlier version, but it's got a different title. All of these songs have the same title as their final incarnation. So the first two I'm going to kind of combine and talk about in one hit, and they are the original versions of Hurricane from Hamilton and No Good Deed from Wicked. And the reason I'm talking about them together is because they are almost exactly the same in how they're different. They're the exact same song as the final incarnation, they just have one little stanza that's been taken out. The earlier versions had one little stanza that was taken out, but other than that they're exactly the same as the song in the final show. With Hurricane, Alexander's got a few extra lines, and as he's doing that, the ensemble's singing a sort of It's almost a mashup of the choruses of Let It Go and Wait For It. But other than that, the song's exactly the same. And that's the same case with No Good Deed from Wicked. Towards the beginning of the song, there's an extra stanza that Elphaba sings, and it's another one of those unlimited moments. So it's another one of those refrains, and afterwards it goes straight back into the song as we know it in the final version. So now we're back to Hamilton and we're going to be talking about Schuyler Defeated. It's a little bit different in the beginning. It's one of those it's different but it's exactly the same sort of moments. But the biggest difference is that after Alexander's confronted Burr, Eliza and Philip pop up and start talking to him. And that's when it feeds into Let It Go. But for me, the best bit is right before that. After Eliza and Philip do their further down bit, they decide they need to go after Alex. So it goes, I gotta find Alexander. Let him know we're on his side. No, he'll consider this a personal slander. I gotta stop a homicide. It just makes me laugh. Now we're on to the last two, and kind of like before, I'm going to kind of talk about them together, because it's kind of the same. And that is So Much Better from Legally Blonde and First Burn from Hamilton. Yeah, I know, First Burn's a Hamil drop, but it's also pretty much a workshop version of Burn. It's not called First Burn for nothing. And they're kind of the same in the way that there's a lot that's changed, but also a lot that's exactly the same. They're not like some of the others I've mentioned where the bit that's different is cut out. In these cases, they've sort of been replaced. Or I guess more accurately, they were replaced, because these are the earlier versions. First Burn's a little different in that the story of the song is slightly different from the final version, whereas with So Much Better it's exactly the same. But they're both pretty 50-50 in terms of what was changed and what was the same. And that earlier version of Take a Break that I mentioned at the beginning of this video is kind of the same. They're all the ones I'm going to be talking about today, but I do have a few honourable mentions. And of course, they're all from Hamilton. Surprise, surprise. First up, Adam's administration. Need I say more? The cut rap is the best bit of the song. The next one is a song that wasn't replaced, but that is the reprise of Dear Theodosia. Leslie's voice when he sings She Died, She's Gone is heartbreaking. It's probably one of the most emotional moments in the show. As far as how it's sung, for me. And that's saying a lot. And the final honourable mention is for the workshop version of Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story. The workshop version starts with Eliza reading a slightly altered and condensed version of Alexander's real-life final letter to her. And that's where the best of wives and best of women line comes from. And that's everything I've got for you today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments, what are your favourite songs from musicals that didn't actually make it into the musical? Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my video next week. So long for watching!